is this is designed for troubleshooting. With training, with everything, you want to work to provide for a dog. You do not want them to be entitled, but you do not want to deprive a dog of something. Like if you don't give them enough of something, if you control something too much, we get a dog that's basically unprovided for with their basic needs. You can only deprive a dog of so much affection where it'll then disconnect from you, and feel like you're not even part of the pack or you're not even there. By not giving them, just like with play and toys, you want to control it to motivate the dog, but not so much that like they're doing hard, they're doing like bad behaviors and finding it elsewhere. You need to give it to them enough where they're still looking at you for it and they're still ready for it, and you're not causing side effects from it. All right. So you need to keep that in mind, and that's common sense, right? That's common sense with anything, with people or dogs or whatever. You don't want to be like causing side effects. So if you go on these charts that we have here, this is great charts to look at. All right, so you can go. It'll be in the leadership, but you can also find it on the charts. You can write like leadership chart, and you'll see like affection, play, work, food, resting places, outdoor access. If you focus on these five, everything falls into place. And what we have here is I wrote down, if it's provided for, the owner fulfills it, the system works with human. Oh yeah, it definitely, this, good point, Kim. This works for humans. This works for all animals. With people, with affection. I mean, a lot of you are parents that are watching, that are probably on here. It's, you don't want to entitle, like kids, animals, anything to really anything, because then they're not going to really work for it or they're not going to really appreciate it. So with dogs, if it's provided for, you can use it. If they're entitled to it, it's going to cause all your major problems could end up happening, from it. And of course, if you unprovide, detachment from odor, lack of motivation, roaming, it'd be like a wolf that like, I'm going to go find my own pack. I'm going to go find my own new pack, all right? They're not even going to want to be with you anymore, all right? So that's like basically said to that one trainer, it's like, it's like you got to troubleshoot, like the training system that make the dog detached, you just got to troubleshoot. It's here. It's okay to give your dog more affection. If your dog's very affectionate and is still motivated for training, you could pet your dog for 15 minutes at a pop. I don't care. Pet your dog for an hour at a pop for all I care, right? As long as the dog is still motivated for it, and as long as you sense that you're in control still, all right? If you are abolishing motivations and the dog isn't working for it anymore, then you overdid it, right? You put too much salt inside of the soup, all right? So play work. So I'm sure Kim relates to this all the time, right? Because he's doing his detection dogs. You need that dog to work anytime, any day, any weather. So if this dog, if his dogs are in the kennel with all their toys all the time or trotting around with a frisbee all day, how you really think they're gonna work in like bad weather in the middle of the night when they'd rather be sleeping or something like that, all right? We can get these dogs to work. If they're entitled, where we're not going to get work from them. If we don't give it to them at all or not enough, we have the dogs chewing up the house and destroying things, biting holes inside of like their metal dog bowls in the kennel, all kinds of crazy stuff. Food, right? We kind of beat this one to death today, right? But food is important, right? Food is going to be important. You don't give the dog enough food, you unprovide it, that dog's going to be knocking over your garbage and it's going to be just focused on nothing but food. And, resting places, all right? Resting places, we want to control that resting place. If we control that resting place, we are going to prevent a lot of problems with even the average dog. If you give a dog with, that's why it's important to understand different parts of ethology, especially different traits of different breeds and different individuals. Everyone had that dog that lounges around the couch all day and really doesn't give you any real problems. But if you don't know what you're looking at, or you do that to the wrong dog, this is where some of the worst aggression happens. And a lot of people that get killed by their own dog, it happens unexpectedly on resting places because it is important to dogs. So if there's a dominance conflict, meaning the dog does not know who really has first right to that limited resource, it can resort to a serious attack sometimes, or at the very least, a bite. So you need to be aware of this. But establishing operations with resting places makes everything. It makes when you do use a place command or something, the dog's more motivated to go to it. They enjoy going to it more because you're controlling it. They can't just go anywhere in the house. They're going to go to what you give them. So if you give a dog steak as food all day, they're not going to care about that little piece of jerky, that you have. The same thing, if the dog is laying all over your beds all day, when a guest comes over the house who is scared of your 140-pound bull mastiff, and or the pizza guy is there, and you just want to pay the guy and get your dog out of the way, they're much more likely to not mind going to that comfortable thing you have on the floor for the dog. And of course, outdoor access. If you control it and you provide for the dog, you are not going to get a dog that's scratching at your door and barking at your face when you're trying to watch your favorite live stream at Dog Training World, right? You provide them, all right? You provide them, you make it so they're ready. You don't just open the door. You establish operations for them so they just don't go out whenever they want. They go out when you say. And believe me, when you call them, they're going to run to that door and they're going to sit for you. You're not going to need to treat the dog to sit at that door. You're not going to need to push their butt into a sit. They're just going to do it. They're going to be motivated to listen to you because they want to go outside. They want to go for that walk, all right? So that's what I wanted to do tonight with you. So to give you an example of how this would look in a regular training day, I get a dog. Now, say this can be someone with their own dog, you instructing someone, but even from an in-kennel perspective, or someone is training their dog at home. I'll tell you first from an in-kennel perspective. If I had let's say I had 3 dogs that I was training, they would be inside of the kennel and I would feed them. I would wake up, in the morning, I would take the dog out of the kennel, let it go for a walk, and I would bring it in. And even before I gave the dog breakfast, it would depend on the day. Sometimes, even before they got breakfast, if I was in my phase 1, it was a new dog, and I was teaching them things, I would bring them into the training room, and I knew they were going to be hungrier, especially if it was a new dog, and I needed to use the treat more because I wanted to teach more activities quicker. I wouldn't feed them the breakfast. I would feed them the breakfast through the training. I would actually have the kibble, and I was using it, and they got their breakfast through there. And I would be able to get a training session with the dog. Then I would put the dog back into the kennel, and then I would always have something for it to chew on or something like that. But then, after I did the same process with the other dogs, when I took the dog back out, instead of having all kinds of toys all over its cage, I would give it something to chew on. I would know that this dog, or instead of throwing the dog in the yard to play with other dogs, I would bring the dog into the training room, and part of the training session then might be I would use a toy, right? I had a toy. I was in control of it. I was dominant. Because of it, if I had a dog with high drive, I pull that toy off the shelf and start swinging it around on a rope. And I'm much more likely, especially after a few days, for this dog to be like, hey, I used to have these things laying around in a toy box at home, but I don't see that toy box anymore. I guess this is the time to start playing. And then through the play, of course, you could train the dog. You can get the dog to do things, to play, to sit, if you're teaching the dog to do anything special, protection training, detection. It's all, you're setting the pace so we have things to motivate the dog. Then even petting. A lot of times I would get like very dominant type dogs into the kennel program. That's the reason why I got them in the first place. Is I would test the dog. I would see when the dog was hungry for the affection. Meaning like I would not push myself the affection onto the dog. The way I would test the dog out is I would just like pat my leg. Like it might even be like the first day that I have the dog. I have the dog, I'm hanging out with it, and I may just pat my leg and see if the dog comes over with a low wag and tail, and submissive body language. If I don't see that, if I see the dog ignore me completely or throw its tail up like this, I'm not even going to try it. I might not even try for the rest of the day. It's very likely if a dog completely ignored me or did that, I'm not even going to try it for the rest of the day. And then I may try it the following day. What will happen is you will see, and this is like my dominance aggression cases and stuff like that were sort of used to playing that role in their own home. When they would get into a new environment, when I had the dog, I just never gave them a chance to control any of these basic needs that they had. Then eventually they get hungry. In the same way they would a dog would beg for the food, they will actively submit for the affection. And then after, you'll see the dog wanting it. You'll see it. And I would pat my leg, the dog would come over. And then again, just like I'm not going to give the whole meal of food in one shot when I'm training the dog, I'm not going to be like, oh, the dog finally loves me, and then sit on a couch and pet this dog and say I'm bonding with the dog and do that for an hour and that's my training session. No. Now I've been establishing operations and now I could keep this dog. I got something else this dog is going to work for. So now I'm doing the training. I may be using treats. The dog is motivated. The dog's doing something. Then I release the dog and I get happy and I call the dog over. And that's when the magic starts happening, where you really start enjoying it because now the dog is eating up your affection. He wants to be part of things. He wants the affection from you. He wants the approval. And that's where also in the training, when the dog understands what you need from him or what these commands are, you can start phasing off the treats for a lot of things because the dog is now working. You put him on a reward schedule. We'll go into that for the affection. The dog does so many things. You release him, the dog gets love, you're both loving the training. We still have the treats for certain things, for new things, for special things the dog does. But again, this is part of establishing operations with the dog. Same thing with resting places. People do not understand the power of the resting place. When I was helping out a shelter, I made sure someone brought in a couch to put into my training room. To me, a couch and furniture is training equipment to me. I need it. I have it in the other room. I have 2 couches that are over here specifically for training dogs. And they want, when you're out there, like with them, like they get tired too. They want to rest on something soft. I would have the couch. I would sit on it. They're not going to be allowed on that. When I'm resting, I may just have the dog on a leash next to me, and they want to relax, and they may just lay down on the floor. But guess what? When I put down that dog bed that I want to teach them is going to be their place, they're much more likely to actually enjoy going to it and to lay down there when I say and chew their bone so I can start micromanaging them when I have established operations. If they're going to just jump, if I'm having them hang out with me in the training room and they're just going to jump and lay on the couch like they do like at home, if they're not going to be as motivated for when that time comes where they get to relax and I send them to their placemat. And what I want them to do like hour downstairs, because that would be part of the training that I would do, is sometimes people need their dog to just settle for like an hour. But you don't want the dog to be miserable while it's over there. And the way you do it is you control the resting places. You control the resting places. They will appreciate. Believe me, a dog bed, sending it to them, it should not be this miserable exercise or like, oh, I got to do it, and you're zapping them on the remote to go over there. It's after you teach them and they understand it, always when you teach a new exercise, they're going to be using food. It's going to be back and forth, lots of repetition. But then generally when they know it, you're using it you're micromanaging them. It's just like a kid. It's saying, right, now is the time to relax. All right, now is a good time to relax. Do this, chew your bone. I'm watching TV right now. This is the best thing for you to do, especially if you have like a rowdy dog that wants to do activity. Sometimes you just got to tell the dog this is the time to do it. But the establishment operations helps them do that. Now, going outside, even though I kept my dogs when I did an in-kennel training program in full kennel runs, like indoor kennel runs that were designed with drains in the back, and they would be able to go to the bathroom in there and everything, I wouldn't just keep them in there and let them go to the bathroom in there. I maintained them on a housebreaking schedule. And that was a reward. I know they want to go out. You can then use that dog and their desire to go out as part of the training. When they were in the kennel, it was not just taking them out and doing obedience and throwing them in the kennel. The scheduling of the play, the affection, going to the bathroom, everything. It was mimicking what we wanted them to do inside of the home. And we're going to do that when we move in. You're going to see, we're going to go into habitation next, officially starting to fill out the habitation forms. And if you understand these basics, it makes it very, very easy when we're helping someone inside of the home. Whether you start off working with someone inside of the home, or if you start off with an in-kennel and then you transfer it, or if you start off helping a dog in a shelter and then you're going to transfer them into a home. You establish operations and you're getting them motivated. You're getting them motivated to do everything. You're teaching the dog that doing things for affection and for food and for the toys and for access to outside and things like that. You're teaching them, to enjoy those things, but you have to establish operations.